should be ready to go, boy.
All right. Gary Hamrick, can you hear us? All right. Anybody that's on Zoom, that's watching us from Zoom, if you want any public comment, it'll be in the beginning of our meeting. I need to know who it is so that we can record who wants to speak, and then we'll write you down and call you in order. Unmute yourself and let us know your name as who wants to speak. Hearing none. Hearing none. All right. How about, Susan, do we have a list of individuals?
James Griffin.
Pardon?
James Griffin.
Mr. Griffin, okay. Jim will wait until after the invocation and the pledge. All right. We'll call the Harrison County Commission meeting for Wednesday, I got July 15th, but it's July 29th, right?
Yes.
Yes, sir. All right. If you'll please rise, join me, and Cassie, if you'll do the invocation, followed by the pledge of allegiance.
Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for your words of wisdom to live by. Lord, we just ask for peace and kindness today in all the hearts in this room and the people that surround us, Lord. We just pray that we ask for your wisdom and that we listen to you, Lord, above all. In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. First item is a public comment period. Mr. Griffin?
I like to sit down.
Go right ahead.
Took my seat, sir.
No, that's all right. Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Identify yourself for the record, and Jimmy, you got at least 5 minutes.
All right. My name is James Griffin. I appeared before you on July the 1st, asking you to reconsider your vote on the status of the statue on Courthouse Plaza. I'm back today to ask you if there's been any indication of you going to reconsider your vote on relocating the statue on the Courthouse Plaza.
Usually we do not comment, Jimmy, on public comment period, but I can share with you that it has not been approached to this commission by either or commissions.
Okay. Well, I wish you would, I'm here to appeal to you again to reconsider relocating the statue. I think it's time for it to do. I think timing is awful important. And I'd just like to leave you with two things. Ecclesiastes 3:1-8. To everything is a season, and a time, every purpose under the heavens. A time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to pluck up that which is planted. A time to kill, a time to heal, a time to break down, a time to build up. A time to weep, a time to laugh, a time to mourn, a time to dance. A time to cast away stones, a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace, a time to refrain from embracing, a time to get, a time to lose, a time to keep, a time to cast away, a time to rend, a time to sow, a time to keep silence, and a time to speak, a time to love, and a time to hate, a time of war, and a time of peace. And I also would like to leave with you something that I left with you the last time, a quote from Dr. Martin Luther King. The time is always right to do the right thing. I wish you would reconsider your vote. I'm not asking you to do away with it, but to relocate it. As I indicated in my last time that I was here, I don't think it's something that should be on public property, and I think that we should consider relocating the statue.
All right. Jimmy, thank you very much. Thank you. Make that part of today's record. Take it under advisement. All right, anyone else? Susan?
No, sir.
All right. At 10:05, we have Phil Southern, questions on funding for annex property. Mr. Southern, come on up, sit down, identify yourself for the record, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. My name is Phil Southern. I live at 259 Carr Avenue in Clarksburg. Been a resident of Clarksburg for 50 years or so. Thank you. Gentlemen, I appreciate the opportunity to discuss with you the funding of this annex. I would like to know more about your feelings towards it and how it's going to be funded, and what type of interest it's going to entail, how many years, and other situations concerning this same annex.
All right. Mr. Parker, can you give Mr. Southern a snapshot of what we're looking at in terms of the questions that he just asked?
Currently, working with, Tom Amon of Steptoe and Johnson Bond Counsel, Rob Steptoe with Crew and Associates, for the financing, handling of that aspect of the project. But we're looking at a 15-year bond proposal is what we're looking for. And the interest rate is to be determined yet, but we're probably in the area of 3%, give or take, depending on whether it's a private offering, if a bank would pick that up, which they're going to take a look at issuing a proposal for local banks to see if they are interested in that project. If not, then we'll be looking at a public offering. The Building Commission, I had a meeting Monday of this week to get the Building Commission advised of where we stood on the project. Right now, depending on how much the commission wants to recapture previous expenditures, as you gentlemen may remember, we passed a order or resolution in June of 2019 that allowed for reimbursement of eligible expenses 60 days prior to that order or resolution being adopted. Those expenses currently are approximately $1.5 million, just under $1.5 million. The bid, the apparent low bidder is in the neighborhood of $15,500,000. We've got just under $400,000 left on the A&E contract that we currently have. And then there's $1,007,000 of a current contract that notice to proceed has been issued, and they have till September 19th, I think, is the deadline to accomplish the site work, shoring, demolition, all the work associated with that project. That and some projected expenditures for utility location, furniture, fixtures, equipment, et cetera, closing on the bond proceed or bond proposal. So we're looking at $20 million estimate, which is what's authorized under that order, assuming the commission would desire to recapture their previous eligible reimbursement expenditures that are eligible for reimbursement. So $20 million over a 15-year time period, anywhere from a 3 to 4% rate, would be approximately $1,750,000, give or take, depending on the interest rate at the time, is what we're looking at right now.
All right, Mr. Southern, go right ahead. Other questions that you may have.
Okay, if you've already, my numbers were at the last time I attended this session 2 weeks ago I was working with $16 million, so I didn't run 20 million, but
Yeah.
at 16 million, and you said 3 to 4%. So at 3.5%, $16 million means that you're going to have a payback of 1.366 million per year for 15 years. Or if you break it down by the month, it's like 113,000 and change per month. Or if you break it down by the day, it's $3,730 per day for 5,500 days. That's what that cost at 3.5%. And at this time, when this whole country, due to this pandemic, is going through some real scary times as far as the finances and how it's going to be run. And, we've got a tremendous election coming up in November, not only locally, but also nationally. And there is one of the competing parties in that election has swore to get rid of fossil fuels, coal within 5 years, all fossil fuels within 15 years. I don't know if that can be done or not, but that's their goal. That would have a dastardly effect on this county, because that means that Harrison is gone, Harrison Station, and that means Robinson Run's gone also. And also for the whole coal state, that's a lot of our revenue, and so it will filter down. And you've got also, with this pandemic, we don't know how much unemployment is going to be created over the year or the 2 years, or however it takes long to address this issue. So it's my opinion, gentlemen, that we need to wait and find out before we commit this type of capital to people in this county, the taxpayer, because it's tremendous. It's tremendous. A couple of years ago, I attended a similar meeting, maybe longer than that ago. Time flies when you're my age, but about the cultural center down there at Robinson Grand Theater. I'd like to know how that's worked out. Okay, they borrowed somewhere around 20 million, I think. I don't know how much was funded and how much it was not funded at the time. It was 3.25% interest, but they've got some similar cost over there, and I'd like to know how that was working, because they've got $1.5 million a year or so they've got to pay back. How's that working? You know how it's working. I do, and I haven't seen the books, but I'd sure like to see them, just see how that's working. And I look at this thing as you gentlemen here. You're running a business. You've got 300 employees that work for you. We as taxpayers pay you to run this business, and we appreciate the job you do. And you get a lot of aches and pains having to deal with people like myself about it, but still, it is a business. And if I had to ask each and every one of you, if you would spend $20 million to tear down the Kelly Pub over here and rebuild a building on it, when next door neighbor, you've got the Chase Bank, somebody just bought for $400,000 recently at an auction. You got the building next to us in the golf building that was bought for $62,500 recently. And I promise you that if you offered something close to $1 million, you could own that Chase Bank over there. Not 20 million, but 1 million. Because they paid $400,000 for it, and they bought it because it was so cheap. That's the way I understand it. They bought the building because they just couldn't believe it when they saw what it was bidding for, and they bought it. Now they're over there trying to rent it. But there sure is a lot of space. And when you come up Pike Street, you start seeing a lot of vacant buildings all the way up Pike Street. And when you turn over on 4th Street and come back to the courthouse, there's a lot of vacant buildings in this town. And I'm sure you could find one of those buildings you could purchase or rent for a heck of a lot less than we're going to spend over there at Kelly's. I know renting is a long-term thing or maybe a short-term thing, but I'm sure you could get an escape clause for some of these people around here. You take the Huntington Bank, the Chase Bank, the other MVP Bank, down there's a big sign on it for sale. This whole town is just about empty as we speak. And to spend another 16 million when you got next door neighbors here that have got plenty of space to locate. Now, I guess the question I want to ask, how many new employees is this going to house? Is this for to house new employees or take care of the existing ones we already have? And Mr. Watson, would you care to answer that? Are we hiring more?
Go ahead and share with him what the plan is.
The current plan proposed plan is not for new employees. It's to relocate certain departments from the courthouse facility into the general services annex. The county clerk, assessor, tax office, commission office and their departments, bringing community corrections back into the facility and versus paying outside rent. Facilities that would be left here would be court-related facilities in the original courthouse. Circuit court, prosecutor, circuit clerk, magistrate, family court, and the associated functions with those. Voting would move from the annex, current annex, over to the general services annex if the plan is proceeds. And then that would leave this facility for court-related functions. And then other functions would be housed in the other location.
It has existed here for a number of years as it is, and we're not adding new employees. And so to make the space, I mean, I'm still in the lurch about exactly why we need the more space.
Go visit magistrate court,
Okay,
go visit family court. You can get into the prosecutors, you can hardly walk down the hall without space. We have a lot of issues with space. Circuit clerk's office is out of space, we're out of space.
space for, you mean just for,
The everyday running of the court system because it is
for documents? Are we talking about documents?
People being prosecuted, people trying to file documents, it's just all grown to the point where in magistrate court, we have 2 courtrooms, it's crowded. We have an issue with how that's handled over there, they don't have room. It's just, it's a.
You know, in the last,
space.
Wikipedia says, since the year 2000, that we've lost 6.7% of the population here in this county, which, and that also says that the population now is like 66,618 people. And apparently there was several more 20 years ago. And of course, we're getting out of space, but we're using less people to do that with. I'm sure the employees haven't changed that much. They probably haven't dropped by 6.7% as the population has dropped. But I'm under the impression, and you can please tell me that, how many employees do we have in the county?
I'd have to do a count. Currently on our pay system with part-time elected officials, full-time, everything associated, we're approximately 315. That includes all part-time positions and elected officials and full-time staff.
And what type of payroll is that per month?
The total payroll for the year, I'd have to look, but it's just over $14 million for just the payroll related, just the wages. That does not include the related costs.
The payroll deductions aren't included in that.
No, like the match, the employer match for retirement,
Yeah.
insurance and FedMed and Social Security and such are not included in that number. I'd have to run those numbers, but the total payroll is just over $14 million.
Has it been considered to use some of the other vacant buildings in the area? And you didn't find any of that acceptable?
No,
Well, there sure is a lot of them around here.
a lot of them are in bad shape.
Yeah, and some of them are pretty good though. I understand what you're saying, you know, but you know, are they $20 million in bad shape? That's a question I've got to ask. You know, that's $20 million to do a lot for you. I mean, as far as renovating buildings and doing things of that nature to make something that would be hostile to this commission and to the taxpayer. And so I beseech you to please reconsider and see if there's another avenue and wait until we find out if we're going to lose the revenue stream from that power plant, which I understand is huge. You know what that is, Mr. Parker? How much revenue do we get as far as taxes are concerned from Harrison Park Station per year?
I'd have to look and see, that's a public utility tax, so I'd have to pull out the public
Can you
utility
just
tax report.
guesstimate how much it might be?
I wouldn't have an idea off the top of my head. I'd
Or
have
would
to-
you have an idea of the percentage of the income that this, county needs comes from that plant?
You gotta remember, every dollar made there circulates through the county 5 times. And that's,
Well, I understand what you're saying, yeah.
regionally, it's.
So if we hire more county employees, do we increase our employment by 5?
No, our biggest concern, my biggest concern is, remember, once we have the building, then we still have the courthouse to remodel.
I'm sorry, Patsy, I didn't hear.
We're still gonna have the courthouse to remodel.
Okay, and is that including this cost here? And how much does that entail?
That's a question I can't answer.
Can you guesstimate?
I can't.
Can you, Ron? How about you, Mr. Hinkle? We don't know how much that's gonna cost, so it's gonna be, would it be similar to what this one is?
No.
Less or more?
The elephant in the room is not the remodeled courthouse. The elephant in the room is the tearing down of the jail. See, that's why the whole purpose we're doing this is to jail, I've been told. There was a study done before I was on commission, it is crumbling. And that's the whole purpose of this.
When they did the study, they give you an estimate of what it was gonna cost to renovate the jail?
What we're doing now for a new building.
Oh, you're doing that now, you haven't done that yet?
Yeah, we have an estimate done, it's about the same amount of money to try to go in and save the jail, but we were gonna put it on a foundation that was sinking.
The same amount is what, Mr. Hinkle?
Yes, sir, the jail has sunk 1.5 inches,
Okay, I understand that, okay,
and there's no way to
I can appreciate that, but what is the cost of doing that? Has anybody said,
Yeah, we had a company come in and look, and it was around $20 million.
oh, that's, okay, that's what I was asking, yeah, so you got 20 there, another 20 over here.
So
So that,
that's why we're not rehabbing the jail, we didn't see the point.
so we've got 40 million now, so these numbers, we just,
We're not rehabbing the jail, we're gonna tear it down.
oh, we're just gonna tear it down.
Right.
It wouldn't cost more than $2 or $3 million.
Okay, so that's just to tear it down, that's what we're
If
talking
we,
about.
under $1 million, you could drop it.
Don't ever drop that for under $1 million.
Okay. And so where will the jailees, where will they be housed then, over here?
Basement here,
Here? I thought you said you were tearing it down.
in this basement, they're housed now on the 5th.
Okay, all right. Okay. Well, regardless, gentlemen, I appreciate the time, and I would certainly like to see us stave off this expenditure until after this election, we find out what's gonna happen with these fossil fuels in this country. And also, what we can do as far as the space that we need to, I guess, accumulate or whatever, or create.
One of your questions, Mr. Southern, was how the Robinson Grant has fared out.
Yes,
with, the tax
yes,
and
so
so
yes.
on there. I've asked Martin Howe, if he has time to join us, at this meeting as we discuss, funding. I've been told that, our numbers that we have over there by using some system that Clarksburg did use on the Robinson Grand, could save us in upwards of $4 million, from virtually tax credits of some kind. So I think Martin was the author of whatever went on with the Robinson Grant, and I thought that he might be able to enlighten us a little bit with that, and that comment that was, call that I got that, said we should talk to Martin with regard to possible saving us $4 million on this project. So I don't know whether Martin's on Zoom, but he was on a conference call, and when he got off, he was going to try to join us. So we may ask him that question. And you might want to call Martin directly to find out about the effects of the Robinson Grant or the new city manager over there.
Sure. Well, you saved $4 million, or I guess there's another way to look at that too. It didn't cost as much as they thought it was, but $4 million.
Yeah.
Because that's not a moneymaker,
Right.
and never will be. Those types of things, but I don't think you people had anything to do with that, really, did you? This doesn't come under your jurisdiction, does it?
Right.
No.
No, I didn't think it did. but it was a mistake financially. You know, it was a mistake. And it's a big mistake.
Any government entity wants to do right now is own land.
I'm sorry, Patsy.
Own land as a government entity.
I can't hear you, Patsy.
We don't want to own land as a government entity, like our new post office is being built, but it's gonna be on somebody's property, because the government tries not to own property. But it's not what we're in business to do, is actually own something.
Well, we're sure buying a big piece of it over there next door, aren't we? 16 or $20 million worth of land. Well, you know, seems just rather sizable to me.
That 16 million doesn't cost, include what we paid the kid for it. That 16 million is what's gonna cost us to build it.
I understand that. How much did you pay to get the land?
I wasn't here, I'm sorry, I don't know. I really don't know. I know what we paid for Pat Kelly's, I don't.
That was what, 350,000? And another million to tear it down? Is that what I heard you say, Mr. Parker?
Right now, all the reimbursable expenditures, to date add up to just under 1.5 million, which includes land purchase, architectural engineering firms and design, legal work, and, you know, most of that being land purchase and A&E firm design that we've already paid. So that's 1.5 million, just under 1.5 million. And the current bid that we have is $1,007,000 for site work, shoring, installing shoring on the total site, and then demolition. So that contract has been awarded and notice to proceed has been issued. So approximately, you know, $2.5 million in those, and then adding another just under $400,000 for contract they have with an A&E firm. You know, that puts excuse me, just under $3 million, and then adding anticipated cost, you know, 1.5, 1.6, whatever the case may be, depending on what, you know, furniture, fixtures, utility relocation, whatever those expenses may be. But right now, we've got the $3 million that would be added to the 16, and then, which, you know, comes just over to 19.5 for the total project, and then figuring, you know, those other costs. So that's why we're looking at $20 million bond issue.
I would suggest if this was a private entity and not a public entity, that if anybody in this room had the option and say they owned this business, because you people run a business, right? You've got 315 people here that really fall under your jurisdiction. And if this was individually owned by any one of us in this room, rather than spend $20 million on Pat Kelly's, I bet you would spend $1 million on the First Bank over there, or Chase Bank, or something like that, and save that 20, if that was your money. And gentlemen, I would like to think of it as each and every one of us think of this as our money. And it's, you know, it's important to these taxpayers. You know, at my age, it won't make much difference. You know, I'm beyond my allotted time, and I understand that. You know, I got 29,200 days is my allotted time. That's 80 years. And I'm 1,000 days past that. So it won't have much effect on me, but it sure will be on the community. And I've been here a long time. And I like this community. And I'd like to see it survive and thrive for a long time. And I thank you for the opportunity.
Mr. Southern, thank you very much, and if you have future questions or whatever, you can contact Mr. Parker, and he will
Okay.
find
Good.
out any information for you that you would like, so.
But I hope you will reconsider and stave this off until after this election and find out where we're going to be financially.
All right.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr. Southern. All right, 10:15, we have a hearing on the closure of an alley. Ruby Mae Miller, Jonathan Fisher, attorney. Mr. Fisher, your client here?
Yes. They are just about to come on right now. If you don't mind, I might pull up an extra seat so they,
Go right
if there are any
ahead.
other questions.
Go right ahead.
If you want to sit here.
Dean, if you don't mind, has anybody reference to this hearing, come on in, I know the Hamricks were out there. Right.
Yes, they're fine to come in.
Yeah, they coming in.
Yes.
All right. Frank, come on up and sit you and Nally.
Over here,
Yeah, wherever.
okay.
Leslie, is this gentleman, for the hearing too?
Yes.
All right, Mr. Parker, set the stage for us.
We received a petition and request for an abandonment of an alley in the Chinston area. You have a copy of that request and petition in your agenda. Ms. Schaefer is here from the planning department. Usually those are coordinated through the planning department. One thing we would need today is evidence of a Class 1 legal ad being published and their public certificate of publication, as well as a statement of that adjoining property owners, lien holders, et cetera, were served with notice of this hearing.
Yes, I can address that first. I believe that that notice of hearing had been filed into the record, as well as a proof of publication of the original notice and the hearing. I have my file copies, but if that's not in your all's
We can
record,
make copies if you'd like.
I can certainly supplement that. Okay. Okay. I have a copy of the notice of hearing for the petition, which was dated on July 6th, and a certificate of service to Frank and Nellie Hamrick. And it's not the best copy, but there is a proof of the notice of hearing from the exponent of the from legal advertisement. And I can certainly go back and find a better copy of all of that
That'll
to
be
supplement the
sufficient.
record.
That'll be sufficient for today.
It should have been published twice. We originally were supposed to have this hearing around the time that the shutdown occurred, so out of an abundance of caution, I republished for this particular hearing and served the notice of hearing, especially to Mr. and Mrs. Hamrick, and I have their the green card on that certified mail as well. So I believe that everybody was given the requisite notice for today's hearing.
All right. Mr. Parker, anything else we need before we let Mr. Fisher present his case?
Not that I'm aware of at this time. It would appear that petition and request is in order with the documentation that was provided this morning on the service of the Hamricks, as well as the publication notice. So it would appear to be in order, Mr. President.
Mr. Fisher, just so that I understand, and we, the commissioners, can understand your petition for abandonment, I've done some homework also with some of the maps, which I'll share at
Yeah.
appropriate time, there. But, one of the areas is, you've got 3 areas of abandonment.
Yes,
One is Fifth Street.
a portion of Fifth Street, yes.
Pardon?
A portion of Fifth Street,
A
yes.
portion of Fifth Street, which is between their lot number, I think 192 and
193.
and 193, which is, they own both sides of that, and I personally, and I don't think any of the residents up there would have an issue with that, because the property behind those particular areas, there is already a designated street, even though it's, never has been developed by the developer of that particular property, so I don't see an issue there. The other, the second one is Sixth Street, and I'm not sure on Sixth Street, but anyway, on the Sixth Street, you're talking about splitting among the property owners the 30-foot right-of-way, so that one property owner gets 15 feet and the other property owner gets 15 feet.
However, whatever would be the most efficient way for that section to be abandoned and apportioned off to an adjoining parcel.
Right.
What we had, as we looked at it, given all the parcels surrounding it, we had argued that if it can be apportioned to those separate parcels, that would be one way to accomplish this. However, if the commission or the planning commission has a more efficient way of accomplishing that, obviously that would be the ideal position
Well,
to take.
the key to any of this would not landlock other property owners with regard to that. And of course, the Sixth Street issue really affects the Hamricks, and so we'll take a look at that more in detail as you present it. The other one is Highlands Avenue, starting at 193 or 192 or
Yeah.
whatever that parcel is, right next to where Fifth Street, that portion of Fifth Street, and running all the way down in between the two properties, that is large parcels that's owned by the Millers. One question that I had in doing that, one piece of parcel they don't own, which is affected on Highland Avenue, is owned by the Davises. And I noticed there was no notice given to Sandra Davis with regard to that particular parcel. And it's right at, I show it as 35. I'm not sure what the actual parcel number is. It's the Davis property up there. So I'm sorry, I show it as 22 on this map. It looks like 209.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you referenced 210 and 211. I reckon our assessor's office, we have it a little different than just partial numbers like that. It's lot numbers, I reckon, on the maps. But anyway, that is one area we can look at and discuss. But you know, the Davises would be affected by that with their particular lot, and that would be 22, and I'll show you guys on that. All right, with that, I'll just go ahead to you, and then I'll bring these maps down, and we can take a look at them and hear any opposition in favor of or opposed to the abandonment, because we do have some community people.
That's right. Well, Mr. Watson, you should have been sitting over here. That was a pretty good summation of what we had put in our petition. And I appreciate all of your review of the petition and preparedness to have this discussion today. I don't think, from what you had said, that there really should be much issue with Fifth Street, so I don't think there's really much to to argue, on that
We'll
point.
ask,
If there's any
if
opposition,
there's
clearly.
any opposition, but I personally don't see any, and I don't think the.
Yeah, and so we'll rest on the language in our petition, at the Fifth Street for, the sake of time.
All right.
Clarity. As to the portion of Sixth Street, where we are not as concerned is that there is still access. If you look at our, Exhibit 1 on the petition on that plat, there is a section of Sixth Street that forms a right angle there at the corner of Lot 188, in which case Sixth Street then continues what would be somewhat southwesterly down Sixth Street. That is the section in particular that we're talking about, as opposed to the section that would turn down going in front of Lot 188. There's also the 15-foot alleyway that goes directly in front of Lot 186. By our estimation and review of this plat, the closure of the section of Sixth Street between Lot 188, 186, and that small portion of Lot 211 would not otherwise landlock the ability to access Lot 188 and 186. Certainly, we're not asking to close that section of the right angle that would lead straight into that 15-foot alleyway, thus landlocking Mr. Hamrick and Lot 186. So we don't particularly see that there would be much of an issue in the closure of that portion, that small portion of Sixth Street there.
So let me ask you, Mr. Fisher, that right angle there coming off of Highland Avenue, is that a 30-foot between Lot 188 and the Hamricks there before you get to the alley?
According to the plat that I'm looking at, I would say so. It appears to be.
So the alley doesn't start until you're at the, for better terms, the southern corner of the Hamricks lot.
There is, but there also appears to be the, if you look at would be the north, cutting southeast from that top corner of Lot 186, there's that 15-foot alleyway as well there, and there would be a corner which would still provide road access. All we're really talking about here is this section just between these two lots. There's still frontage, there's still road access, this portion of the 30-foot. There's also the 15-foot alleyway. There also appears to be no landlocked issues, as I've already stated, if that small section is closed on Sixth Street. Absolutely.
All right, right here's the alleyway,
Right.
and this is Highlands Avenue, right?
Right.
Sixth Street then is this portion here to there. So what I'm asking is that the 30-foot, and then the alley doesn't start until
Till
you
this
get
corner.
right there.
Right.
So that's the corner of the Hamricks,
Correct.
because they own these three lots, and they own
Exactly.
all of this, partials that go back through there, so they have the alley. But if we restrict this part of Sixth Street, they have no way of getting to the alley.
And that's why we are
You
arguing,
said,
arguing from here over, is
Okay.
what we would
So
be,
you're not even
because
taking this.
This is not no, because
Right.
we're not going to be landlocking anybody. We're not requesting that. From this corner back, that still allows if it ever became a road frontage, it would still have access
All right.
to this property.
Now, the other question of your petition, is that splitting that part of Sixth Street, which is 30 feet, 15 feet for the Hammocks and 15 feet for the Millers?
Whichever would be the most
I
efficient
think
way
the way
to-
I read
Yeah.
that. So we're only talking about this part.
That's correct. That's correct.
Frank, if you don't mind, come on up here and let me just share this with you.
Take a look, just to make sure that we're arguing the same thing. If you want to take a look at this. If I can just.
Yeah, go right
Yeah.
ahead.
So I just want to show you real quick. As far as Sixth Street is concerned, taking this corner and apportioning out between these lots so that you don't actually cut off the frontage and access to this lot. Because if we block it right here, you're landlocked.
Yeah, there's no intention for land.
Right.
This might even be a better, so what they're looking at is from this point across. In other words, that part of Sixth Street still remains Sixth Street, okay? So they're only talking about this part of Sixth Street
15
here,
feet of it.
right there. Now, you own these 3 lots, they own this one here,
Yeah.
and what they're proposing or recommending that they can take that 30 feet and split it 15 and 15.
So you're gonna get 15 feet too.
Well, I understand that, but here's the point now, back over the hill, I don't know what's over there. If somebody wants to travel and they want to make a street on, come down
Yeah.
Sixth Street,
Mhm.
now he does they have to go get permission from him to travel on his side and
That-
then get permission on my side?
That will not be a public street.
It wouldn't be a public street.
Nobody would be traveling that, Frank.
Right. So essentially, your property boundaries would
Go 15.
extend, and theirs would extend to that
Yeah.
15 feet. So
Right.
to the extent that anybody would want to travel over this portion, if it's on your side, they'd have to ask you. If it's on the Miller side,
Yeah.
they'd have to seek permission.
It'd be
That-
private
Be
property.
private property.
Right.
I've got a question that's probably, I want to know what the purpose of all this.
Well, they're,
What are they trying to do, is what I'm trying to ask.
So the purpose is that there are official roads on the record that are unused and still exist as what would ostensibly be public road. By closing off and abandoning from the county the portions that we're discussing in our petition, what we're doing is foreclosing anybody from arguing, well, this is a public road, so I can come over here, I can travel on it. We portion those sections of land to the adjoining property owners, expanding by 15 feet on each side of the
Yeah,
center
yeah.
line to those, and just foreclosing roads that only exist really on paper at
Okay.
this point.
Sixth Street will still exist up to your property line to where the alley starts. And the alley is still, public right away also from there to whatever this is back here.
Right.
Now, if Fifth Street below me is abandoned.
No, it's not. This is the only part of Fifth Street.
Well, okay, I understand that.
Yeah.
There's a sign there that says Fifth Street. Will it always be Fifth Street? Even though,
Yeah, that's
This
still,
is still Fifth Street.
all the way from bottom to the top?
From here to this portion, Fifth Street would then end right here at this corner. This portion of Fifth Street would then be a portion.
This across
Yeah,
here.
yeah. This would still remain. This would just be a portion to these 2 lots and become private property between these 2 parcels. So that you don't have the same issue that we're talking about between your parcels over here, that it's technically a public road.
That, I'm assuming, we're talking,
Here, this is technically Fifth Street.
and this
Yeah.
is Fifth Street here.
Right.
As you
Yeah.
can see. The only way, if the property owners got together and wanted to make a petition to abandon that part because it goes nowhere,
Right.
goes into this guy's property, then you could do the same thing that you're talking about on Sixth Street
Right.
is divide it half
Well-
and half.
There'd been a family moved in on Fifth Street before, you know, all this started. And we was having trouble because
Right,
the old man Hildreth has chewed out, but their garden kept coming.
Right.
And in 92, 93, my son blacktopped it from the bottom of the hill
Mhm.
up to where,
Right.
across my
Yeah.
property there.
yeah. Well, but that'll still be Fifth Street. That, all the way down to
To the end there.
Right.
your property and whoever's, on that one there.
Yeah.
Right.
So, but we're only talking,
Well, Miller's own out at the end of Fifth Street on my side up here.
okay.
They bought some land out there at the end
Well,
of
that
it.
might be for another abandonment, should they, choose to wanna actually close all of Fifth Street.
Well,
Make
it never was. It was always a
grass.
dead-end street.
Right,
Well,
it was on paper.
according to Fifth Street of what Frank's talking about, where you got the other property on the other side. Well, we would never want to abandon that for the simple fact Frank wouldn't, is because then we're landlocked on that parcel.
And so isn't this guy here, it
Right.
looks like.
Right.
So-
So our overarching goal is not to landlock anybody, but
Okay.
to clean it up.
All right, so that's Sixth Street.
Yeah.
The next area, is
With Highlands
Highlands Avenue.
Right.
And you wanna go from lot one, partial 192, go ahead, Frank, stay right here.
Oh,
192, all the way down, and to the Millers, which is 210 and 211 parcels. Okay?
See here, and
now
that,
this goes out around the hill, is that right?
Yeah, that's their
Yeah.
property
Yeah.
down here, Frank.
Yeah.
yeah,
Uh,
so as we look at this, obviously, if Sixth Street is going to remain, this, if you want to take a look at this,
So it would actually have to come from
here.
from there.
Right.
Now, my only question there is, they don't own 209, and that is the Davis property.
Okay.
And the only access that they have,
Does Davis have any other access?
or you
Other
can look
than-
at the
From the
aerial,
railroad tracks up, because that's what they own.
right, see,
That's a cliff, by the way.
is that what that is?
It's a drop off.
But you can see that,
So then we have a little bit of an issue with access.
that's correct.
Here, I've got
So if we were to
I mean, you
push
could go
this
across
here,
there,
if we were to push that back,
then that
and
would,
then that closes that one, that really
That's correct.
would, yeah.
and I don't think anyone would have an issue in that.
There's another one of them. And if you look at, right here's our house. Now, Highland Avenue comes up, it bends around the corner around, from where they're cutting it off up, and that's longitude and latitude. The house is right here. The Davis property is right here. Right here is the West Fork River. You see what I'm
Right.
saying? That's a
Right.
straight drop. I mean, the surveyor couldn't even hardly survey our property. It was so dangerous.
Right.
So but the issue, even though there may be issues with the terrain, from the legal side of things, and what the county commission is going to look at is technically, if that is the access point, then we've got a little bit of an issue. Is there any access?
Yeah, there's railroad tracks right along the edge of the river here that, now they call it the Rails Trail, but I don't know how far that goes back.
And I don't think the commission's going to count
That
rail
wouldn't-
track. That's
that
not going
wouldn't
to,
be
that's not going to,
satisfactory.
yeah, that's not going to be
But,
satisfactory.
but you can see that I don't think we would have an issue coming across from there because that's
See, the
all.
whole
there-
issue of it is the trespassing that we've had. We've had people planting marijuana up in the woods, and I've called all the law enforcement. Now the DNR's
Right.
patrolling it.
Now I see why you want that rail trail, that weed on there. Joke, trying to make it lively a little
So-
bit.
If we were to be able to close off from here, you would be able to, at this portion, you could put a gate up.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
could gate right here, you can gate here and close it off, and any trespassing can be dealt with accordingly at that point. And we don't have the issue through here of, well, this is technically Highland Avenue.
Well, what would they do? What would they do? Just close off that parcel and then gate it off from where it is by
We would,
Sandra Davis?
we would close
Yeah.
off right here at
Okay.
this corner, at the Miller Davis point. This would ostensibly be split between these two parcels, or the parcels that are adjoining,
Right,
and then you'd be able to.
Yeah, the intention's not the landlord,
Right.
nobody.
right.
Is that an opening for Davis?
Yeah, that would be. So we would then, instead of arguing from here, we would move.
We go into recess, this is going way beyond petition, Patsy's left the room. I have no idea what you all are talking about.
Well, you could have joined us, though, Dave.
But he sent a petition, I read the petition.
All right, what do you want to do?
As far as I'm concerned, they can re-petition,
All right,
because you're changing everything. It's just, nothing would have started out that he applied. Unless he's gonna get, you're not gonna split up.
all right, well, you hear the other commissioner?
The other one's out in the hallway.
No, he's not.
Where's he at? Restroom. All right,
Just saying, I don't know why we're carrying on this conversation.
all right,
It should have been done long before it ever got to here.
okay. Mr. Fisher? You see where we're going with it?
I do, and if it would please the commissioners to file an amended petition taking into consideration what we've discussed here today. I don't think we would have any objection from the Hamrick on what we've suggested, and would be able to have a
All right.
straightforward process.
That'll be fine. Anybody else? Go right ahead, sir. Identify yourself.
About the Fifth Street, the end of Fifth Street, where it comes down and joins Bluff Street.
Yeah,
The access off of Bluff Street is already cut off from underneath. Now, that's cut off next to my lots. I don't have my glasses on. Let's see, then that'd be bottom of the lot, 192, I believe it is,
mhm.
whatever this lot is. right here.
Fourth Street, 192.
And it's already on 193, 194, 195, I believe it is. No,
194 and 195.
Mhm.
96, 195, and 194, yeah. And it's already cut off on one end. Now, the people below us down over the hill, just like Jay said, it's all bluff. That cuts off Bluff Street, so they have no access to their property from the upper side of their property. They've got Factory Street, which is down next to Roller. They've got it, but they don't have the access up there. If you cut off the end of Fifth Street, 40 years from now, I'll be dead and gone, I'm sure. But somebody else may want to go down in there, you know, they're building houses everywhere, against hillsides, everything else. Somebody don't want to go down there and build a house.
Okay,
So you have no access from Highland Street to go down that way. That's the only question I have.
right.
It's not going to bother me.
Mr. Fisher, if you don't mind, look at the totality of all of those and Mr. Holbert's area there, but I see it's behind, I think it's 207 and whatever that other one is there. Okay?
And see, they do indeed have a road there. That's the picture of the road. And they've got a pump station directly behind it, where that road goes down behind this house. See the road, it goes all the way down behind the pine trees, and that's the road. And right here is where Fifth Street is. Now, Mr. Holbert lives down here, and we had problems because we put up a split rail fence down here. And he went and cut that bush out there.
We can deal with any of those other
Yeah.
issues. What we'll do is, we will take all of this under
Advisement, we'll table it.
Absolutely, and we can amend our right petition. Will that keep it on the county commission's docket? And
Yes.
the amended petition can be
Yes.
filed?
Yeah.
That's fine.
All
We
right,
can do that.
thank you. Sorry, David. Gotta give him an opportunity to.
I'm not saying the petition was not right.
Now, it's a public hearing, wasn't it? You have the public come in and they can voice their concerns and, so on.
Thank you all for your time.
You're welcome. All right. Need a, Willie to, since this was, a time certain for the alley closure, can we do a motion to table it?
Yeah, the commission could do a motion to continue the hearing, upon receipt of a revised petition and request. And maybe, hopefully, Mr. Fisher is able to get concurrence before the meeting.
All right.
Thank you.
All right.
And we'll have planning follow up with
Yeah.
Mr. Fisher.
Okay, how about you?
Okay,
Good.
motion to that effect?
Take care.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. All right. Okay, 10:30, Mr. Tarango. I know we're a little late, but,
Oh, I see.
yeah. All right.
Hello.
Floor is yours, Mr. Tarango, on the Italian Heritage Festival.
Yes, I'm just here requesting funding. It's the same funding that we usually receive each year, $2,000. I know, of course, this year is different with everything happening with COVID, and wanted to just update everyone on what we're exactly doing as a festival. As you probably all have heard, the governor has said that you cannot have any festivals in person. So obviously we won't be doing that. But myself and our board of directors, we sat down and we really thought about some ways to be creative and still keep Italian culture and heritage alive during Labor Day weekend, and to still just fill the void of what would be where the 42nd Festival would be. With that, we've come up with having and to have a virtual festival. What that means is it's going to be a blended platform of archived videos of past festivals and new live performed entertainment, which will be performed at the Robinson Grand Performing Arts Center, and it will be broadcast live via our Facebook and website. So it'll be a mix. It'll be a blend and a mix between live and archived entertainment. Our goal is to be able to provide entertainment throughout the entire Labor Day weekend as if you would be at the festival, so that any given time during that weekend you could go to our website or our Facebook page, and literally just pull up a festival digital brochure and follow along and join in with whatever entertainment's being shown at that time. We also have plans to still incorporate other type of art forms other than just music. We do plan on having an authors forum that will still be live with live discussions with this year's featured author, as well as live cooking demonstrations and some other things we're still working on. Allegro, they're a dance troupe. They're filming some things for us with social distancing in mind that we can show. So we're just kind of taking social distancing and all of that into consideration, but still doing as much as we can to keep the essence of the festival alive and also just continue to survive as an organization through these tough times.
All right, questions of the commission? David? No? Mr. Parker, is the funding request in order?
Yeah, the funding request in order, as I understand it, you will not be having any activities in person or need for the courthouse plaza.
Correct.
All right, so the request is for $2,000. What's the pleasure? Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye. Aye. One piece.
All right, thank you.
All right, 10:45, a little late. Proclamation, Deputy Dixon Pruitt. Hey, guys. Come on down, guys.
We doing, Sergeant Pruitt first?
Yeah. Yeah, Pruitt, yeah.
If you guys want to just have a seat, we'll do you guys next. If you guys want to come up. Detectives.
There you go.
Chief, Lieutenant, if you guys want to come up. I was gonna take a picture. I want David.
Sheriff, before we, read the presentation, are these, for this one, or that?
Yes, yeah, one for each.
Okay, you go ahead with yours.
Okay, first of all, would like to thank everybody for their attention to this matter. Today we have an honor to recognize one of our own in the sheriff's office, and we want to take a moment and recognize Detective Sergeant Dixon Pruitt, who has been a very strong link to our chain at the sheriff's office since I've been sheriff, and I know years before that you have been. And so we want to recognize specifically one case that recently Sergeant Pruitt led the investigation on, and it was a homicide case. It was a cold case of 38 years into the murder of a local child here in Harrison County. And it lingered a lot of us, and it was on a lot of our minds over the years. And I'd asked Sergeant Pruitt to look into that, probably, I think it was in 2017, early 2017. And as you're here when Commissioner Watson reads the proclamation, just recently there was an arrest and a conviction in that case. So with that being said, on behalf of the Sheriff's Office and our staff, Gladia, Lieutenant Tichnell, who is the commander of the detectives, Detective Josh Cumberledge, and Lieutenant Rob Waybright, we want to present to you a sheriff's citation. And it says, this certificate of recognition and appreciation is presented to Sergeant Dixon Pruitt for his hard work during the investigation of a cold case involving the homicide of a child spanning 38 years. Sergeant Pruitt, I'm very proud of you, and I know that your peers in the Sheriff's Office are, as well as the Commission of Citizens of Harrison County. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And now, on behalf of the County Commission, we have a proclamation. Whereas Sergeant Dixon Pruitt is an employee of the Harrison County Sheriff's Department, on October 30th, 2017, Sheriff Robert G. Matheny assigned Sergeant Pruitt to investigate a 38-year-old homicide cold case. And whereas on June the 24th, 1981, a 7-year-old boy was murdered in Harrison County, Sergeant Dixon Pruitt used his skills and knowledge to thoroughly investigate the cold case. He wanted to seek justice and closure by solving the investigation of the homicide of a young boy. And whereas through the efforts of Sergeant Dixon Pruitt's extensive investigation, Sergeant Pruitt and the West Virginia State Police Corporal Byron Claypool arrested William Clyde Jeffries on February the 21st, 2018. And whereas William Clyde Jeffries was convicted of second-degree murder on March the 18th, 2020, now therefore be it resolved that the Harrison County Commission does hereby proclaim Wednesday, July the 29th, 2020 as Sergeant Dixon Pruitt Day, to recognize Sergeant Pruitt for his dedication and service by solving the cold case homicide of an innocent boy and bringing closure to the victim's family and for the citizens of Harrison County. Passed by your Harrison County Commission this 29th day of July 2020, signed by your 3 commissioners and attested by our clerk. Sergeant, you have the floor for any comments.
I don't know what to say. I didn't expect any of this. It's an honor to speak for Conrad. The whole sheriff's department was involved in this, and members of the West Virginia State Police, and that's what it's about. But I really appreciate, I'm very humbled by what y'all did for me. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you all.
That's why we have Dixon Pruitt Day as a holiday.
Can we get off?
Thank you, guys.
All right. We now have a proclamation for Lewis County Deputy Charles Kirkpatrick. Is he in here? Oh, okay, well, great.
Becky? Jeff? Maybe scooch down that way.
Here's the box. Come on over here. There we go.
Come down on the other side.
We'll get there.
All right, Sheriff,
I'll switch sides if that's all right.
that is fine.
Balance, you know.
Yeah. I'll let you go first.
Not only do we have the greatest sheriff's office in the state, we neighbor a pretty darn good sheriff's office. And so it's my pleasure, again, on behalf of myself and the entire sheriff's office of Harrison County, to recognize one of our neighbor deputies from Lewis County Sheriff's Office. And Sheriff Gizzi over there is a good friend of ours, and he works well with us. I know he couldn't make it here today, he had prior obligations, but it's my pleasure to present a sheriff's citation. This certificate of recognition and appreciation is presented to Lewis County Deputy Charlie Kirkpatrick in recognition of his quick, life-saving actions during a serious medical incident involving a Harrison County resident at the Clarksburg Country Club on June 5th, 2020. And maybe Jeff will want to speak here in a minute on the incident. I don't want to steal anybody's thunder, but Charlie, we're very proud, very happy that you were in the right place at the right time. And you know, your actions just show what law enforcement is all about. We're in a tough time here with a lot of people coming against our profession, and you serve our profession well and serve the people well, and thank you. Congratulations. Thank you, sir.
And now, Charlie, on behalf of the County Commission, we have a proclamation. Whereas Charlie Kirkpatrick is the deputy for Lewis County Sheriff's Department, and on June the 5th, 2020 at 8:00 p.m. in the Clarksburg Country Club, Charlie Kirkpatrick and his girlfriend, a registered nurse at WVU Hospital, performed a miraculous act to save an individual's life. Whereas as Jeffrey W. Nelson and his wife Becky were finishing dinner, he went into cardiac arrest. From a wife's perspective, he leaned over to her and said, "I think I'm having a heart attack." He then blacked out. Whereas Charlie Kirkpatrick and his girlfriend sprang into action along with other individuals and started CPR with the sternum rub to keep Mr. Nelson alert for the next 15 minutes. An individual called 911. First responders arrived a short time later from the Oak Mound Route 19 station. And whereas thanks to the quick thinking of Charlie Kirkpatrick and his girlfriend, Kayla Lynch, Jeffrey Nelson is alive and well today. Now therefore be it resolved that the Harrison County Commission does hereby proclaim, along with Deputy Pruitt, Wednesday, July the 29th, 2020, as Charles A. Kirkpatrick Day for the use of his knowledge and compressions in the desperate situation. It's passed by the Harrison County Commission this 29th day of July 2020, signed by your three commissioners and attested by our clerk. Charlie, on behalf of us, I want to thank you very much. And Mr. Nelson, we're going to let him tell a thank you also personally. All right, Charlie, we'll give you the first go, and then we'll yield over to Mr. Nelson there.
Well, the only thing, I could say is that, I just hope that if I was in the same situation as Mr. Nelson was that evening, that anyone else would have jumped up and tried to do the same thing for me as I did for him. And that was the only thing that I was thinking, that I recognized what the situation was, and I was only trying to do something to help.
All right. Jeff?
I want to thank Charlie and Kayla for, one, I didn't have any idea who they were. We were sitting at the country club and finished dinner, and I blacked out, went into cardiac arrest. And I don't have any idea what happened after that. My wife informed me that Charlie had leaped over a table. It came to my attention and kept me going for 5 more times until the emergency car got to EMS, took me to UHC, and after 3 operations in 7 days, I'm here to proclaim that, thank God he was there.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Charlie.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep, I know, I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
See you guys.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you. How you doing?
Good, how you doing?
Thanks.
Thank you, Ron.
You're welcome. See ya.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, wait a minute. I think she was trying to.
surprised he told
All right, we're back on the, agenda under action items, consent agenda. What's the pleasure? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Payroll change notices. We have a few of them.
Yes, Mr. President. We've got 3 for the assessor's office, 1 resignation from the circuit clerk's office, and then we have a recommendation for animal control. I've asked Elizabeth to be here in case you have any questions for her. But myself, Ms. Sell, and Elizabeth did the interviews for animal control. I think Elizabeth would have a different viewpoint than Ms. Sell and myself, but my recommendation is Tara Hodge for the position.
All right. What's the pleasure of, Commissioner?
And what you want to do for animal control? That's animal control. Yes, with the resume, so people we interview. I could just attach that documentation, that's who we interview.
Where is the, ad?
I didn't put that in there. I didn't put the ad in there. Received for the animal control in excess of 200 resumes, applications, letters of interest, whatever you'd like to call them.
Did you sign it?
Yeah.
That is your recommendation, right?
Yes, sir, Mr. President.
I'm assuming this will start out as an, Animal Control Officer 1.
Yes, and her effective date would be August the 17th,
Pay grade is
4-1.
4-1. All right. And we still have Animal Control 2, 3, and 4
Yes, we've got, as they become certified,
as they become certified.
yes.
All right. All right, any further, discussion? So we need a, motion to approve payroll change notice. All in favor, say aye. 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 All right, exonerations, corrected tickets, joint property application.
Move to approve.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Consolidation of land, segregation of land.
We have none.
Item 6 is consider approval for project fund requisition. Do we have anything on the White Oaks payment?
Yes, we have, some requisitions, one of them being for Unicap in the amount of $493.75. Another one from Unicap being $1,581.25. And the last one is Unicap and UMB Bank, for 3 invoices for UMB Bank, one from Unicap, all total of $19,827.24.
All right, Mr. Parker, these funds come out of a special fund set up, not out of general fund, right?
Would not be out of general fund, no.
All right, what's the pleasure of the commission?
Move to approve.
All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Item 7, review and discuss the courthouse emergency PA system and a resolution authorizing the filling of an application to West Virginia Court Security Funds for additional cameras. Mr. Park.
We have a resolution prepared by Ms. Jones for additional cameras. I forget what meeting Ms. Jones appeared at earlier and advised we would be filing or needed to file, could file courthouse security funds and asked for suggestions. Cameras were suggestions. Earlier this week, late last week, it was suggested about an emergency PA system. The phone has those capabilities, and with the IP speaker we can install in the hallways, lobby areas, depending on the cost of the speakers or the quality or type of speakers. That's anywhere from $400 to $1,000 each, and you dial the access code, which is 3 zeros, and then you're into the system here in the courthouse to make a public announcement, and that would not require any additional wiring, any additional work. It could be accessed from any phone, would not have to have one access point in each office where you'd have to travel to that access point. It would be a better access to the an emergency PA type system. And for the public purposes, we can put speakers in the lobby or hall areas without any problems. Otherwise, it just comes through your phone system over the speaker phone. And, so it would be my recommendation to proceed with the resolution for the cameras, the additional cameras as presented, and then we'll be bringing a quote back for the IP speakers to install in the courthouse. To finish that part of the project.
All right,
Make a motion to authorize filing for the grant for the cameras.
okay, the motion for filing for the cameras, the grant to the cameras. Patsy?
Yeah.
Any discussion? Question on the emergency, I understand through emails that it wouldn't qualify.
That's what we were advised in discussion with the court security, the Supreme Court staff that deal with the court security applications. They advised or recommended, suggested, whatever word you'd like to use, that it would not fall within their guidelines. They would not be recommending that funding. The cameras would fall because the court security, purpose of the court security grant is to deal specifically with court security, circuit court, magistrate court, family court, not the overall security of the facility. Their main function is court facilities, is what the function of that grant is. So overall, why it may be a better project, XYZ, than a camera location for court facilities, does not fall within their guidelines.
All right.
Because they deal court specific.
Let me ask you then, Mr. Parker, about our emergency PA system. Is this, do you have it somewhere else on the agenda?
No, not for today's purposes. The system currently is operational and can be accessed. The only component we do not have at the current time is a speaker in the lobby areas, an IP speaker.
So if I'm, emergency happens in the hallway somewhere, I gotta find a phone?
Yes. Just if an emergency would happen in the hallway, you'd have to find whatever button switch that you'd flip for the emergency
But I'd have to
system.
find a phone,
Yes.
because every floor doesn't have a phone, right? In the hallways.
No, not every floor does. We could put one there, but.
Does every floor have a fire alarm?
Yes.
So my next thing would be, if there was an emergency, is to hit the fire alarm, even though there's not a fire.
That would not be recommended in all cases, depending on what the
Right.
emergency is.
That's correct. Should we have take a look or have somebody review, best practices or best system that, might, let's say we have an active shooter or whatever going on in the hallways, altercation of some kind. I'd have to find a phone.
If you're
I
in,
can't find a phone. So all I'm saying is, shouldn't there be an emergency phone somewhere that somebody could, then announce that we have an issue on 3rd floor, 5th floor?
we can put an emergency phone similar, I can talk to IT in the lobby areas or whatever, that could, A, call 911, B, call the control office or wherever else we wanted it to call, where you just hit a button and it would automatically dial.
Why don't you, get with, court security and the sheriff, I reckon, and see what might be, a best practice, that we could, accommodate. It's all on a what if,
Right.
may never, ever happen.
We could do that. I mean, if, and we'll get quotes for that as well as the IP speaker, so that combination, if you're in the hallway, you could hit that button and somebody then would receive an alert.
Right, okay.
And, you know,
I think, see where we're coming from.
could have a, you know, a two-way communication possibly.
Okay, did we, Susan, did we, approve the motion for, the cameras?
No.
All right, we do have a motion from David. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Item 8, that's the ABC, and that's just a relocation, for that, and it was a zoning letter.
Yes, it's just a letter.
Just a change in name or something?
Correct.
All right, what's pleasure?
Move to approve.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Item 9 is review, discuss, and consider the appointment of James Skadir or another individual to the Harrison County Board of Health for a term ending May 31st, 2025. Mr. Parker.
We were contacted by the health department and advised that, Mr. Skadir's term, while it has expired, he can continue to serve until either reappointed or replacement appointed for a term ending May 31st, 2025. Therefore, that's why we went ahead and put it on the agenda.
All right. Questions, David? Nope. And Will, if I'm not mistaken, as a joint, with Clarksburg, we have 3 members, they have 3 members, and of our members, 1 has to come from each of the parties,
Yes.
Democrat or Republican.
Yes, correct.
Right, and I think Mr. Skadir is representative of the Republican Party. I can't remember who our, it's, Aquina is, our other representative. All right, what's the pleasure? We have a motion to, approve, Patsy?
Yes.
All in favor, say aye. Item 10, review, discuss, and consider, approval of time, materials, and equipment, lease or purchase for work on the rails to trails in the amount not to exceed the established fiscal year budget currently of $150,000. Mr. Parker, and I'm assuming you're planning director.
We have the topic on the agenda as well as attached document. You should have received also a hold harmless agreement. Because we possibly could be doing some work on the trail currently owned by the North Bend Rail Trail Authority, State of West Virginia. So therefore, the purpose of the hold harmless agreement before we would commence doing any of that work. And that's for the president's signature. And then I know we have some issues on the northern trail, the Spelter, that need addressed as well. Mr. Dale couldn't be here today, but he has had discussions with the Department of Highways and North Bend Rail Trail Superintendent. He expects our cost to be in the $5,000 to $10,000 range, possibly for the work on the North Bend direction of the project or of the rail trail. Because the Department of Highways is doing a bit of the work and ditching, drainage, swales, culverts, whatever the case may be. And then the superintendent didn't want any top coating type gravel placed. Some of the larger gravel will be placed in areas that need some drainage as well as some stabilization. But they have a vendor that's going to be doing some fiber optic works, and he did not see the need to go ahead and finish the top coat with smaller gravel and then have that firm come through, install the fiber optics, and then just repair it back. So we will be taking a look at possibly working with those entities on some areas that do need attention as it relates to drainage and some larger stone. Ms. Schaefer's here, probably has more details and understanding than I do.
Go right ahead.
I'd like to make a motion that, maintenance and staff proceed to make repairs to our rails to trails, not to exceed the $150,000 in the budget, and to come back if anything's required over that.
All right. Any further discussion? That's fine. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. Item 11, review, discuss, and consider a lease purchase agreement between the Harrison County Development Authority and the Harrison County Commission, formerly Thrasher property. Mr. Parker?
As you gentlemen are aware, this property was purchased over a year ago. And this is just getting a lease, agreement in place. The property is in the name of the Harrison County, Development Authority, but this lease agreement then, leases that to the county commission, makes us responsible for the lease payments that have been authorized and approved, and that agreement just requires the president's signature.
All right, revenue, will they be, advertising and developing the property according, what's
No,
the
that
status, David?
That would be the county commission they could assist, but
And the purpose for putting it in the development authorities,
because it was a multi-year purchase,
that's correct.
that,
Okay.
and the county commission could
Yeah.
not enter into that, so putting it in the county development authority's name, then leasing it
That's
to the
correct.
county commission
All
for,
right.
for further action.
Thanks for that update.
And within the next 2 weeks, EDA grant will be applied for the roads and the infrastructure and the development of the land. And potentially 1 to 2 buildings through the grant.
Good. So we'll have development on both sides of the runway.
Yeah.
Route 50 side and on that side. All right. Motion to approve.
Motion approved.
All in favor, say aye. Item 12 is review, discuss, and consider resolution authorizing acceptance of funds from the West Virginia Justice Reinvestment Initiative Treatment Supervision Grant Program. Ms. Jones?
Yes, I had applied for that. It's a couple positions that is funded for the community corrections to do treatment supervision, peer recovery, and, CES, okay, I drew a blank. But anyway, it's to accept the funds, and there's no match on that.
What's the fund amount? What's the grant?
It's for $90,000.
$90,000.
The other position's community engagement specialist. I just drew a blank when I was trying
Okay.
to think of it. It's $90,000.
All right.
Makes it accepted.
Need a motion to approve the acceptance of the fund
Motion approved, and Jeannie,
and sign documents that,
you're on fire. Thank you.
all in favor, say aye. Aye. Item 13, Ms. Jones, is another one of accepting a corrections funds, and that is in the amount of
$100,000.
$100,000. So we need a motion to approve accepting and fix the signatures where appropriate. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Item 14 is review, discuss, consider a letter from West Virginia State Auditor and Chief Inspector requesting Short Line Public Service District submit paperwork 2019 audit. Mr. Parker, looks like we have a number of PSDs.
Excuse me. Item 14 or 15 are the same, with item 14 being Short Line Public Service District, item 15 being the Lake Floyd Public Service District, and the State Auditor's Office sent the correspondence directly to the PSD and then copied the Harrison County Commission. And it takes no action of the commission today. I wanted to put it on there for your review and consideration. I have forwarded both of these letters to representatives with the PSD board, so.
All right, so we need a motion to make it part of today's record for item 14 and 15. All in favor, say aye. Item 16, review, consider, and discuss reappointing members and setting terms of office for members of Charles Point Economic Opportunity Development District Board. Mr. Park.
Mr. Amon from Steptoe and Johnson drafted and provided this order. The order appoints or reappoints Michael Romano for a term that expires June 30th, 2025, Kristen Queen, June 30th, 2024, and Ted Lopez of June 30th, 2025.
Are these individuals currently serving on that board?
Yes, they are.
All right, what's the pleasure of the commission? Does anyone, either commissioner, have anyone else you want to submit for consideration? Motion to approve. All in favor, say aye. Item 17, review, discuss, and consider requests for remote work assignment for Michael B. Pizzino Jr., GIS services for the assessor and commission. Mr. Parker, come on up, Mike, sit down.
We have a letter, that was, drafted and presented to the commission, as well as, GIS services for the assessor and commission office. This also, if it's approved and authorized by the parties, would be, for addressing and mapping capabilities. Mr. Skidmore has announced his intention. He hasn't put it in writing yet, but he has a countdown on his phone of days, hours, and seconds to his pending retirement, so. But the letter is, requesting a 6-month trial basis. Rocky Romano, the assessor, is here and can address it from his side of the equation. But you have the letter presented in your packet for discussion and consideration.
All right,
And
commissioners.
Mike's here for questions, comments, or what you may have for him.
Rocky, if you don't mind, how about giving us, your perception and take on this?
Well, I tell you what, on my end, if you would have asked me this in January, February, I'd have said, I don't think so. But what we have accomplished from being at home, especially on Mike's end, helping with everybody else and taking care of his stuff, we've not had any problems. We've actually got probably more done because we were not, it was not, pulled away for different things in the office. I suggested the 6 months, so we see where it goes. As I approached you all a while back about being a test county for the IS World for Tyler Technologies, we were approved as a test county. That with another mapper, an IT person, scared the hell out of me. I would like to be doing that with Mike's assistance. I think that's, we definitely need that. And I believe that, with Mike's, well, let's face it, he has a plane. And we need him, he can be here, if the weather's good, he can be here in no time. We put in the letter that we would request that he be here within 48 hours if we need him, knowing that he could probably do that a lot quicker than that, but in bad weather or whatnot, we suggested that. When Charlotte and I first talked about it, we talked about it, she had mentioned a year. I said we need to do 6 months, see how it works, and I think we try the 6 months and broach it from there and see what we're getting. I think Mike can do the work for all three. I mean, he does the commission, the GIS coordinator for the county, as well as the mapping for the assessor. And if he steps in and does the 911 addressing, I think it's a good thing. I mean, we can even do, the payment could come a third and a third and a third from each budget.
All right, thank you, Rocky. Commission comments, Patsy? Pardon? No comments? David?
I'd like to go into executive session if the two of you do it.
All right. On this item, because personnel, Mr. Parker, does it meet our requirement?
In my opinion, it would meet West Virginia Code 698-4 under personnel duties and assignments and responsibilities, job duties. Yes, sir.
All right, let's defer item 17 to the end of the agenda then, and we'll see if we can address the other 3 items that remain. All right. Item 18, review, discuss, consider a letter of support for medium household income for a water project proposed by the enlarged Greater Harris Hepsi Ball. Mr. Parker?
As you gentlemen are aware of the documentation in the packet, they're requesting consideration for the medium household income due to the fact that their district includes some of the census tracts of the Bridgeport area, which, in their opinion and Region 6 Planning Development Council's opinion, inflates their medium household income, and they're asking that the funding authority make that adjustment in consideration in their application. And this letter, that draft letter, has been prepared for your signature, supports that request.
All right, all three commissioners?
Yes.
All right, motion to, sign the, support letter for Greater Hepzibah.
Motion, please.
All right, any discussion? Dave?
Is this one of the public services we're trying to consolidate?
Yes, they're going through that process right now. The enlarged Hepzibah and Sun Valley PSD are working on
We
their,
just got the bill for,
that would be Coons Run. And they're also going through the
we
process.
got the bill from for all the meters and all that stuff.
Coons Run, I do believe, yeah. We're not getting any bills for enlarged Hepzibah. Coons Run, we have some bills that came through, and I know, Mr. Hoover and Todd Swanson, legal counsel, have, established some hearing dates and already had some hearings with Coons Run and Greater Harrison to facilitate that merger and consolidation.
And the reason we're doing this is,
This letter
yeah,
is to request that the West Virginia Infrastructure Council fund the project with a lower medium household income threshold, so the project would be eligible for their funding.
what project's that?
They're replacing old,
Yeah, let's see, I think it's
Just that, I mean, because I haven't seen anything come through that said that they had a project, or this was all new to me.
well, they're not looking at funding through the Small Cities Block Grant project. They're looking through the West Virginia Infrastructure Council, which they go directly to that, funding entity for their funding, and then based on the medium household income is whether grants, loans, combinations thereof, and with the census block information, the medium household income is, as a result, is increased when you use the Bridgeport area that is in their service area. So they're asking that that be adjusted.
Okay.
And Thrasher is the engineering firm that's been working on this. I'm trying to see if it outlines what the project is.
I mean, I see what they're asking, I'm confused. At one point, we're trying to combine, and the other, we're telling them to go spend money. That's all I'm confused about.
well, that's being taken into consideration by Sun Valley at this time, because that debt will then become part of their, debt once the merger.
So Sun Valley has an agreement to this?
Yeah, actually, Sun Valley is heading the project.
Yeah, Sun Valley and enlarged Hepzibah have entered into a management operations agreement. So Sun Valley is into the management operations agreement for this project.
So
It's just
where's
been
the
large.
letter from Sun Valley saying for them to do ahead and go through with this?
I didn't get a letter from Sun Valley because they have entered into that agreement already, and both PSDs have entered into that agreement. So the management operations aspect of the enlarged Hepzibah PSD is with the Sun Valley staff. The reason enlarged Hepzibah has to approach the Infrastructure Council is because the merger or consolidation is not complete, and they still are a legal separate entity for funding applications, contracts, et cetera. But the management and operations and overall responsibility for the project falls to the Sun Valley PSD under the current agreement.
I don't know about everybody else, but that just sounds confusing to me. Patsy, when you gonna get the bond?
We're trying. When's our first meeting? I think the 18th?
I'd have to look and see what the schedule
Our
is.
first meeting's the 18th, it'll go in the paper 2 weeks before, and then they have to have their public meeting, then Sun Valley's meeting, then their public meeting, then our meeting, then our public meeting, then a final vote that'll be sent to the PSD. And from what I understand, David, well, they told me we're nosing when we're gonna get that back.
But the reason for
Have we
the,
voted to combine them?
Yeah.
what's that?
Has the commission voted to?
The commission's authorized that, staff, work and proceed with working with the PSDs on a consolidation and merger plan. You still have to go through the aspect of having a public hearing, but you've authorized that work to proceed overall.
Yeah, there'll be a vote today from the Hepzibah board to do the consolidation, then a public hearing, and then a vote from the Sun Valley board to accept the merger, then a public hearing, then a vote from us to agree to do what they've agreed to do, if it even gets to us. And then we have a public hearing, and then we vote to send it to the PSD if all parties agree. The first step isn't us, the first step is actually Hepzibah, then Sun Valley, then us. What we do is put our stamp of approval on what the other two entities who are separate right now do to become one.
Well, I think we need to hire some legal counsel, because I do believe, Patsy, that we can play this game for a while with them, but I think the commission can force the issue harder than we have been.
Well, actually, Willie and I have met with legal counsel, who actually happens to represent both the two entities. We've met with him twice now, and he's actually helped us get this schedule to move the meetings forward. Quite frankly, Willie, we'd probably almost halfway through this if it was for the pandemic.
Yes.
It slowed us down every bit of 4 months. And then what the biggest concern was from Sun Valley was they didn't know how to do a Zoom meeting, and we've offered, I don't know if we told you, Johnny, we've offered your assistance to do that.
Whatever I can do to help.
Okay.
Yeah.
I hope you knew that.
I do now.
The purpose of this letter today, the reason enlarged Hepzibah is still the agency for the funding is because they're still the legal entity for the service area, even though they've entered into a management and operations contract with Sun Valley.
Okay, what's the pleasure?
Motion.
Motion to approve, fix our signatures. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? All right, item 19 is discuss and review and consider right-of-way agreement with Zayo Group LLC, installation of fiber optic cable, Southern Rail Trail. Mr. Parker.
You have the proposed right-of-way agreement in front of you that their representation has signed. We've been, working with the representatives with, CityNet, who's been coordinating, the go-between, whatever you want to call it, for this project. It would run from DA Park area, all the length of the Southern Trail, and then continue on from there. I'm not sure where they're going from there, but continue on from there for fiber optic cables. This is just under 65,000 feet in length, according to the agreement. But there would be a upfront payment of $15,000 to the Harrison County Commission upon the execution and finalization of this agreement. The agreement covers that they would put the trail back to as is or better condition than it currently is.
Mr. Parker, 5,500 feet is only a mile. Where are they going from and to on that Southern Trail?
Beginning south of Milford Street, according to the agreement, and then they're going to continue on to McWhorter. Of course, we don't own all of that area.
That's much more than 5,500 feet.
Yeah, the agreement is 65,000.
Oh, 65,000.
Yeah, just under
That
65,000.
may make it.
Yeah, that'll make it, yeah, just under 65,000 feet in length, so I may have misspoke. I'm
So
sorry.
the purpose, that will be a trunk line,
Yes,
and it's coming off of somewhere here in Clarksburg area. And it's gonna have internet, all the other stuff that a fiber optic does.
yeah, this, as I understand that, this is the same firm that's coming from Parkersburg
Yeah.
on the North Bend Rail Trail, and, you know,
How do I get that information off of the trunk that's in our trail or any trail and get it to my house?
I'm not sure what kind of taps are gonna have and access points to that.
I mean, it's good to have the fiber down there, but how do I access it?
I don't think it's for us to access.
It's not for us, David?
It's going to the Virginia coast.
For what, now?
It's going to the Virginia coast.
Virginia coast? Okay.
So what's our right of way width on the rail trail?
30 feet, I do believe.
We have some that's larger than that, Dave, but majority of it's, 30 foot.
And we're granting them a 10-foot right of way.
Yes,
When I see it doesn't say whether that 10-foot right of way occurs in our right of way. Am I missing that?
well, for us to grant them a right of way, it would have to occur in our right of way, otherwise they'd
I
be,
understand that, but
Yeah,
if they've
otherwise-
got 30 feet, are they allowed to run, are they gonna claim the 10 feet down the center?
No, they're saying it's gonna be off the side.
I don't see that.
it's just a 10-foot right of way under the current agreement within our 30-foot right of way. It could be left, right, center, or combination thereof, depending on how it lays, what they hit, I don't know.
All right, what's the pleasure?
Motion.
She's got a motion to approve.
Yes, sir.
Discussion, David?
I think you're giving up control of your rail trail, so they can come back forever and do whatever they want on it for maintenance. You're not telling them where they can put it. So if I was them, I'd come right down the center of it. And then they have control of it.
Planning, has your, legal looked at it
No,
and given any opinion with regard to some of David's questions, what we're giving up, what we're not?
They're talking about using the traditional plow method, they're not gonna get off the side over there in the ditch or anywhere.
I can send it to him today and have
Plow
him
the
take
edges
a look at
down
it.
the center. Plow. I don't think there's enough information.
Is it imperative, Mr. Parker, that action is on this, or can it be deferred?
We can defer it a week if the commission so desires.
Patsy? Okay, withdraw your motion? All right, so, we'll, defer this for, why don't we have legal look at it, whether it's, Zimmerman or Rachel's group or whatever? Okay, Dave? All right,
If we'd like, we can put a clause for the location to be mutually agreed upon type language.
do what now?
If you'd like, I could take a look in discussion with legal counsel for the location to be mutually agreed upon, that 10-foot right of way.
I think you need to put a lot more than that in there.
I don't know why we're giving them a 10-foot right away. That's the first thing.
They have 4 lines going through, that's why.
4 lines, big
Yeah.
trunk line. So they have to get to Virginia.
We're putting in 1.25 pipe,
Mhm.
so we're talking 6 inches. We're giving them 10 feet.
And then the ability to go back and do whatever they need to do off of it. So it's really isn't for the consumer, our consumer.
I could see giving them 5-foot right away and telling them to stay to the left or the right of the trail bed.
All right, Mr. Parker, how about bringing back some more information?
We can do that.
All right, last is commissioners' comments. Patsy?
Yeah, I don't know, hey, Willie, I think that maybe the 911 center solution is gonna have somebody retire. You already have it, so we're gonna post that they get 2 more employees. I'm just gonna ask Ron and David, should we go ahead and, if he does retire, can we just make that 3, so we don't fall short there?
I've been talking to Paul and Jim about a reorganization staffing plan. If it'd be agreeable to the commission, probably best to bring that forward first before we add 1 to those 3, and realignment of some duties and staff, hopefully to improve the overall operations.
So we definitely will have 2 then coming.
Yes,
When will you post that?
those will be going out the first of next week, and then for a mid-August return date.
Did you, how are we moving forward on the audits that we asked for, so we can move forward on the levy?
I've got the audits in my office. I'm sorting those and get those to the commission of what I have from this past year, and then I'll have to go back and get previous years from entities.
Okay. You think we're on track though, to have that on November?
We're doing our best. It's gonna be difficult to get everything done by the mid-August deadline, I believe.
What can we do to help?
It's just a matter of all those entities getting the information for all the past years to us.
Could we let the entities know that it's imperative if they want to be a part of the?
We can do that, yes.
I think we do, I think that, a little notice, let them know, that, part of the, and I agree, we would like to know what you're doing.
Yeah.
So, anybody else think anything else we can do?
The question I have on it is, if we put it on in November, what percentage of voters does it take to pass it?
60%.
60% of the people vote.
Yeah.
What's the cost to do it?
90,000.
So you just set up a Saturday vote,
Oh,
or, I'm just asking.
David,
90,000.
yeah, it'll be around $100,000.
I mean, I can't think of anything more important.
We've done it before. They started doing it with the,
Yeah.
even the Board of Education, I think. So, it's not a good idea.
When does the, fund run out for them?
I mean,
You still have
you could do it in May
up 22.
22, and, that would, as I understand the statute, that delays you submitting your budget to the auditor's office pending the May outcome of that election. But yeah, it's beginning the fiscal year of July of, and I don't have those here in front of me. But we have next year.
They still get funded next year.
Yes, July of 2021 takes us through June of 2022.
And that is not a presidential.
just throwing that.
I know.
I'm following you.
Mhm.
Let me ask you this. I saw an email, and I'm just going through things right now. A question about part-time people. Did they get the 3% raise? I saw you and Ron said the same thing. Did that work out?
No, we have to resolve that issue, and I need to bring that to the commission, for consideration.
And I admit to you, I wasn't following, quite frankly. Can you tell me what you guys were going back and forth with?
Evidently in the discussion, and I don't remember, and I haven't found any documentation this week to clarify it in my mind. But the two part-time individuals that are charged to the commission under 401 received the 2.5%. All the security received the 2.5% versus the 3%. And it's a matter of what the commission desires to do. And I don't know if that was discussion, the intent, or if it was just an error, oversight. I can't find anything at this point. All I know is the part-time for security and commission all received a 2.5% increase and not the 3%.
Does it have to be a vote? Can it be something you do internally?
No, I cannot do that internally.
Because budget issue.
All right, will you put it on the agenda then for next meeting?
Okay.
And then one other item for the agenda next meeting, is that, post 13, like the VFW is saying that they have the matching money, that they would like for, to get their roof fixed. And, Willie, let me ask you something, that's important. When we discuss this, can we already know that we're gonna go into executive session, without doing it illegally? You know what I mean? I like to talk about this with Ron and David.
On this,
Post 13, the American Legion.
on the roof project,
Yeah,
that would not qualify for an executive session, in my opinion.
okay. Can we meet with you individually then?
As long as the meeting is not the intent to violate the Open Governmental Meetings Act, yes.
I just want you to go over the budget and everything with me.
Okay.
Okay. So next meeting, guys, that's gonna be an agenda item, please. And then I have a couple things I want to talk to Ron and David with about the agenda, the budget real quick. Mike, is Jessica in there?
We'll find out.
I want to show you guys, last year, and one of the things they carried over, and Willie was explaining to me, is $144,000 for Ulster Charles. That was for the, purchasing of B&O, the railroad he was explaining to me. Do we keep that, Willie, or do we lose it?
That money was not received, that money was not, although it was not spent, it was money that we had not received to spend because the project didn't come to fruition.
Okay.
So that money would not be there. And looking at the numbers, I'll be bringing revisions hopefully next week. But we put in $6 million for our carryover balance for our budget this year. Our carryover was approximately $5 million, so I'll be moving $1 million from the Financial Stabilization Fund to the General County Fund to make that shortfall. And so our budget will be made whole.
If you're doing that, how can we move $700,000 from the auto levy to the general fund? I'm not sure why we're moving so much money around.
I'm not sure what,
Move 700,000,
$750,000 that we've already done.
yeah.
That was moved from the Vital Services Levy, excess money there, to cover expenditures that were made out of the General County Fund and Financial Stabilization Fund on the 911 project.
So what, from the general to the,
The expenditure was out of the Financial Stabilization Fund, and then the Vital Service Levy then refunded or reimbursed a part of that construction cost back to the Financial Stabilization Fund.
okay, and then the general fund then is where you want it then?
The general fund now will be moving approximately $1 million. I may move, depending on the balance in the Vital Service Levy, additional money to reimburse part of that cost to the Financial Stabilization Fund. And then we'll have to move approximately $1 million from the Financial Stabilization Fund to the General County Fund for our carryover balance to bring that up to the balance that we projected.
So that'll take the general fund roughly from 4.8 to 5.8. That $1 million.
Yes, and, the balance was 4.9 something, just under 5. We projected 6 million, so that'll bring that up to the projection that we did in our budget, preparation in March.
Okay. Well, the reason I mentioned this is what we did is we carried over $177,000 for the nuisance ordinance. And right now we have a budget of $150. I'd like to move that into the nuisance ordinance from last year that wasn't spent on top of the $150. I don't know if that would have to be an agenda item or that's something we could do between, both of you.
For the budget for the budget transfer I'll be preparing, I'll be moving, 1 million, 1.25, depending on the status of the vital services levy, to the financial stabilization fund. Now that, of that,
The one line item that last year, we had to carry over, let's keep that going, because one of the things that happened yesterday was like, for example, the Hart, or last week, I was telling Ron about it, the Hart family, has agreed on the piece of property that's falling in on Route 19, in between the post office and the old store. They've agreed to give that to the county, and then, I was telling Ron, and he said one of the things Charlotte's already working on is that now we can have the post office property owner or the building property owner, would they like to tear it down and then have the property? If they agree to that, if not, then we would have this nuisance money to continue to get rid of cleaning up the county. That's the whole purpose of the nuisance budget.
Now, moving that money from the financial stabilization fund to general county gets us to where we projected in March. That does not get us above that number. That would require additional funding from other sources. Yes, that's already in that number.
Well, what if she had spent it? What if she had tore down 10 houses and made the county nicer?
Then our number would have been lower than $5 million.
And what's the difference if it is?
We projected 6 million in our budget presentation or preparation for carryover. So we need to move money from the fund to make that transpire and happen.
I mean, if I understand our budget, if we have at the end of the year $100,000 in a line item, and the next year's budget, we put 150, we don't take that 100 and turn it into 250.
No.
Just,
Why couldn't we do that?
well, because when we do a budget, it's for the exact dollars you're gonna spend, so if you wanted to spend, instead of us budgeting 150 when we did budget time, we should have budgeted 250 for that line item, because at the end of the year, all those line items roll back into the general fund, so that he can take it and figure out what we have and what we're gonna project off of. We don't keep adding, or if we did, we'd like the airport stabilization for the last 10 years would be $1 million.
Okay.
So we can't just keep growing those funds because we don't have the money for the income. I'd love to be able to do it, don't get me wrong, if we had the income to take everything we didn't have, or just like for Susan and voting, we told her 100, she only spent 50, and we got 100 next year, and she carried 50, and so before long, she could have $1 million sitting over there in voting that she could never spend, but we just don't have that kind of income to.
Yeah, but it's different in voting than the nuisance, because we know we have, like Ron said, heck, if we cleaned up everything, we'd be broke.
Oh, I don't know, argue, we just need to
$300,000 a minute.
pre-plan it so that we have it in the upcoming budget. In other words, next year's budget, if you want
300,000.
300,000 in cleaning, or cleaning up buildings, and
300,000.
some other, done, we'll put 300,000 in, it's just a matter of.
Okay.
But if you don't use it, it goes back into the overall to balance, our budget.
Goes back into one bucket at the end, June 30th.
And then we decide how we're gonna divide that bucket out next year.
Yeah. Now, we projected the size of that bucket already, and now we gotta fill that bucket up to that level.
Then our bucket has a hole, our bucket has a hole in it.
Our bucket does not run us over.
Got small leak.
All right, anything else? Still thinking.
Yeah, I am thinking about that one. Yeah, that's all. Is Marcia here?
I don't know, I haven't been out there. She was coming in later this morning.
All right, David?
Laura, are you still on the phone?
Yes, I'm here.
Can you give us an update on active and cases we have?
Give me 1 second. We have,
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. We have about 20 active cases here in the county. And of course, we have a good bit on the quarantine list as well. I did not reach out to Chad this morning to get those exact numbers, but I'll get those for you and I can send it over. As you know, our numbers, we have more now than the beginning of the pandemic when it all started, and we're just trying to hold our own here in the county.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
That's all I have.
All right. Before we go into executive session, David, with reference to our abandonment, that was a hearing, isn't that correct, Willie?
Yeah.
So, with all due respect, we needed to give those individuals who were opposed or for that adequate time to hear before the commission. Some of those areas, I think now certainly could be, will be resolved in Charlotte. My paperwork and all that, you put it in for your file. I think you heard where we're at on that. And make sure the Hamricks and the other people up there are aware of making it fair and balanced. All right?
Totally agree.
Okay.
And I would recommend that in the future that planning sit down with all parties involved and try to iron all this out before
I agree.
we get to this situation and try to have so that
And our time, I'm sorry.
so that we don't have to go through that and the people that petition was
And our,
could not work, so.
So what you're saying is have a finished product or at least a near finished product before we go to the hearing.
We thought we had a better product than what we have today, but we were incorrect.
Yeah, okay. All right, that's all I have. Hearing nothing else, David, we need a motion to go in executive session on item 17. Or when we come out, or is the decision going to be made?
I have no idea.
All right. All right. We stand, all in favor of executive session?